can be on set for like 20 hours sometimes. And then you're lugging, massive kits around up flights of stairs and, booking cars. For
Not glamorous.
It's not glamorous. It's not.
How does somebody who's new wants to get into session? How do they become your assistant? Like, how does that happen that you get a new assistant?
I mean, it's probably as simple as how you got me to do this today is to just reach out to people and find out who, because the thing is, sometimes you can be unlucky and people can say, oh, look, I've got too many team, but come back in 6 months' time or whatever. The great thing about our industry is that the assistants come through quite quickly. The transition is quite quick for some of these guys, and so there's always going to be positions. There's always new openings and little things. And also, just because I have a one main assistant, there's other people in the team. There's other people that come in and it rotates, or maybe Ellie's off doing another project, and so there's always room for new people. I mean, and also, listen, if there's some young stylist like say yourself or some young kid who's doing something and I think, wow, they're really good, I'd love them to be working with us, then you give them the opportunity, you get them, you bring them in and get them to shoot with you and you test them out and see how good they are. But I think what you need to do is to start assisting somebody who you admire or somebody who can sort of help you at the beginning. And then I think you need to kind of you need to sort of find out, because what tends to happen when you're an assistant, the assistants will start working with the assistants of the makeup artist and the assistants of the fashion stylist and the assistants of the photographer. And like I say, then that team starts to forge. And that's how you build up your kind of book, what you do. Yeah. So it's an organic sort of, it evolves that way. It's not as strict and as stringent as what it would be in the salon.
So if someone contacts you, what stands out for you? Do you want them to have a portfolio of like work?
Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily.
No.
So here's the deal, right? I think if somebody has the right attitude and is really willing to sort of be put through their paces and work hard and is quite obsessive about hair, they'll probably fit in with me quite easily. Like I'm a great believer that I can make most people, unless somebody's really hasn't got a clue, but most people can, if they've had a little experience in working in a salon, or they can do a bit of hair, and that's not always necessary, because I like somebody when they're just like a bit, they're awkward. But I always try and look for somebody who's a bit obsessed about what we do and knows and has done their kind of history and has done their sort of research on stuff. I think that's really, really important. I think somebody who's dedicated, they've got to be dedicated, really, that, because at the beginning's really hard in session. It's kind of like, the money's not great. The hours are ridiculous. You travel, you can be on set for like 20 hours sometimes. And then after you get a couple of hours sleep and go back in the next day, I mean, it can be really awful. And then you're lugging, massive kits around up flights of stairs and, booking cars.
Not glamorous.
It's not glamorous. It's not. No. But somebody can DM me and sort of say, Nick, are you interested in, I want to do this, or there's a girl here that maybe you should speak to, or a boy, or whoever. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, people come through the website, and sort of ask, and Stacey, who my wife, who's also my agent and manager, manages me.
Yeah.
Which is great. So it's all in house. We, everything's very, I don't have to. We're together all the time. So it's great. It works really, really well for us. The training's ongoing. It's all the time. So that every time you're working on set or if we're prepping to get, if you're doing a big project or whatever, or an advertising campaign, or you're doing wigs, and you're always working on stuff. And and obviously I then send out my, Ellie and other assistants that work with us will go off and branch off and work with other young creatives and start creating their own little kind of circle and their own little teams. And all of a sudden this kind of network starts to sort of sprout from this one thing. And you can probably trace the line. It's a bit like Sassoon and Toni Guy in the hairdressing side. A lot of people come from maybe 2 or 3 camps, and it could be Guido, who's a very famous hairdresser. His session, like his team, they all sort of then become obviously great session workers. And then a guy called Eugene, who's a good friend of mine, he's the same. And I think a lot of the guys that even now that are out there doing it, and we all have some kind of connection to either one of them two, or what happens. It's a very organic thing in session, and I don't think it's not like a discipline doing training nights in the salon, or going to cosmetology school, or even though that stuff's, or going to doing your NVQ or whatever. I just think it's a kind of an ongoing thing, and it's a very obsessive part of hair. You have to really live and breathe it 24/7. You don't never really switch off from it. I think at salon, you close the salon door and you go home and you finish your clients for the day. Whereas I'm in the computer, or I'm researching, or I'm referencing something, or it just never stops. So it's a different world. It's a very different world.
Because when I was at Sassoon, everything was very like, this is the way we do it. And we're going to use these little scissors, and you're going to cut it this way. And it's when you leave that you then go and explore and find your own way with stuff. Was it like that for you as well? Like,
of course. I mean, I think when I came out of Toni Guy, we were lucky because we sort of had, we were exposed at a young age there to kind of the session world. And we had like Guido was sort of with Toni Guy in them days, and Eugene, and so the team would go off and do shows and all that stuff. So once you started getting a taste for that stuff, you sort of started to break the rules a bit more.
Yeah.
But obviously, there was a barbering system like at Sassoon, and everything was wrapped around a certain number of haircuts and a certain kind of way to do it, so that we wanted a fairly foolproof way of doing it. So that just meant that if I wasn't there and you came in and my client came to Kayla, then you could potentially do this exact same haircut.
Yeah.
So that regimented element of it, when you start doing session work, and once I eventually left and became a freelancer, then it's all about undoing all of that stuff that you learn as a hair. Like obviously, your foundations of being able to set and finger wave and do a French pleat and braid and all of them amazing things that you need to learn. That's at the heart of what you do. But the stuff that gives you the edge and makes you different, and you create your own kind of tag, if you like, your own stamp on your work, is when you break the rule a bit and you do weird things with hair. And I might use an iron now, for instance. I might buckle the hair in a really weird way, where I'll twist and put it back on itself and do a weird little thing and then iron it to get this crease in the hair. And then people go, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I think that's the stuff. It's that. And that's why now a lot of the younger ones coming through, I really encourage people to break them rules. It's like you today, your hair looks amazing. You've got little clips in, but it's your little nuances of the way you pinned it that make it you. And I think I have to learn that stuff as a session stylist. I have to learn all them little nuances and details that you have to get rid of as a hairdresser in the salon. I dial it up.
It really feels like in session work, there is something else happening. Like, I can appreciate a beautiful haircut, but with session, it is so mind-blowing to me that you make hair look beautiful, but it also looks like it just is supposed to exist there.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah,
so different.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I think that's the thing. And I think cutting is a beautiful skill. It's a very important skill. But I think as we've evolved, I think it's these subcultures that immerse and start to happen, and we've always been inspired by them. Even when I was a cutter, and you know, you would look at, you know, the mods, or you would look at, you know, the new romantics or whatever it would be, or punk, as these eras to sort of draw inspiration from.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the kids, like all the people that come to work with me on the team, and new assistants, they bring a new aesthetic. They bring a kind of break the rules. You know, if like Linus would make mistakes, then mistakes was the stuff I would get ideas from.
Yeah.
I'd say, Linus, do this for me, wave that, do that, and I go back and he'd fucked it up. But
Yeah.
the fuck up was the bit that I really liked. Pardon my swearing, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. But so that bit that he made a mistake with, I would think, hold on a minute, that's really great. And all of a sudden you leave it in there, and then people look at the work and go, wow, that's really different. Or
yeah.
So I think that's what session work does. It gives you the freedom a lot more, because you're not cutting hair and you have to look. Yeah, it's all about manipulation. It's about using product in a way that you might not.
Yeah.
You're not meant to use it, whether it's like a gel or a mousse or a wax, where you, instead of putting just a little tiny bit in, you put a shitload in it, and you make the hair look like you've been caught in the rain, or you haven't washed your hair for a month. But that's the look, and there's something really amazing about that. And the nuance of beauty has changed massively. And I you know, what I do now is I also have a role with a magazine called Hunger Magazine, where I'm the hair editor. And part of our sort of mandate, if you like, when we before we do anything, is to tick certain boxes that we feel are morally correct, that have to happen, and that is diversity and inclusivity.
Yeah.
Once you have that, once you look outside of the perfect Kim Kardashian thing, and start to say it's your next door neighbor who is a size 18 and she's got afro hair and she's dresses like, but there's still something within that you can do and make and dial up that personal thing. They're the more important things to me now, as opposed to making just somebody look prettier than they are or something like that.